Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Pause and Effect. I'm your host, CJ, and returning to the show for his third appearance is my good friend, Kevin. Have you been?
I've been all right. How have you been?
Pretty good, pretty good. So, by popular demand, this episode is dedicated to the Kirby series, both as an overarching whole and from the perspectives of what each individual game has to offer. If there's anything to be said about any game specifically, then yeah, go for it. So, let's start with a simple question. What's your favorite Kirby game and why?
Oh man, that is a tough one. Given that the Kirby series has had a lot of like hitters throughout the entire series, but I want to say that Kirby Superstar Ultra is the one that I spent the most time with when I was playing with my Nintendo DS Lite a lot. That's the one that probably stuck with me for the longest time, like after like Kirby and the Amazing Mirror and Planet Robobot.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Superstar Ultra is probably the one that I played the most and sank the most time in because I was trying to beat that final boss rush mode with all the harder bosses,
Yeah.
and I kept getting my ass kicked. Very rarely could I get to Mark's soul, but I did manage it a couple times, only to get immediately bodied after.
Yeah.
Other than
It's
that, oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, it's all good. But like after it, at that time, it was a very like hard thing to do. But like going back to that game, now it's much easier to play.
Oh yeah. Other than that, I'd say my other favorites are Triple Deluxe on 3DS and Kirby Air Ride on GameCube.
Kirby Air Ride's a good one. I wish I had more time and experience with that one because I know it's like very heavily praised and like to this day people are still asking for either like a port of that game to modern consoles or a sequel.
Yeah, I do see that too. Maybe there's a small chance that if Nintendo does a like a Nintendo GameCube online thing like they have with N64 and
Yeah.
SNES and stuff like that, that maybe we could see Kirby Air Ride ported into that. But other than that, I have no idea.
We'll see what the future holds, I guess.
Yes, we will. So, follow-up question, do you have a favorite copy power?
Favorite copy power. See, back in Superstar Ultra and Amazing Mirror, it was definitely Hammer because it was the strongest and I was able to like beat bosses fairly quickly with it. But in the later games, like the 3DS entries, Triple Deluxe and Planet. Triple Deluxe, I want to say was Beetle because
Oh,
it
the
was
Beetle was so much fun.
yeah, Beetle was a lot of fun, and it was also on par with the hammer copy ability in terms of strength. I
Mhm.
enjoyed using that one a lot. And for Planet Robobots, the psychic power was a lot of fun too.
Oh yeah, like I remember I hardly ever used that in Planet Robobot, but I do remember now like whenever I did, it was I don't want to say too broken because you couldn't move and were very open and susceptible to being attacked, but it still worked out in its own interesting way.
In some ways, I found it stronger than the hammer copy ability because you could just spam B to just do the neutral, like psychic power over and over again near a boss, and it would do consistent damage. It didn't have to do like giant heavy hits or anything, but as long as you kept doing that or you charged up the psychic attack, it would do a lot of damage over time. And it was actually faster than trying to use the hammer because hammer you have to get close to the enemy, but with psychic you can just be at a certain range and not have to worry about getting hit.
I did also appreciate that the psychic power, the hat for it was Ness's baseball cap.
Yeah, and they alluded to it when you looked at the pause screen.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. I'm kind of in the same boat with you as well. Definitely in the earlier Kirby games, my favorites were Hammer and Sword. But when they made the transition to 3D, Psychic was always good, and Toxic from Planet Robobot was also really fun. But I think my two favorites from the 3D series were Ice and what was the other one? Oh, Archer.
Archer is fun. You could hide behind that little like that little fake bush that he brings out
Yeah, that was so broken in Triple Deluxe.
because it basically left you invulnerable.
Yeah, even though I spammed it to hell and back, I still never managed to like beat that final boss rush mode.
Yeah, it's amazing how they made like each like throughout the Kirby series ever every time they had like an arena mode or true arena, they always make the series of those battles like progressively harder. And like you notice like between Superstar, Ultra, and Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot, it's like everything got progressively harder.
Yeah. I mean, it still definitely worked out well in its favor.
Indeed.
So, what was it about the Kirby series that drew you in, and what has kept you invested all this time?
It was honestly, it was a great many things. Like for one thing, it was simple to pick up and easy to play. But as things got more detailed and more in depth, like I became very invested in the lore behind the Kirby series. And I'd argue that's a like really big capturing point for a lot of people because nobody expects for a game about like this cute little puffball character to include like a lot of dark themes and imagery. Like for example, during the Dark Meta Knight Returns boss fight in Triple Deluxe, when you get his health halfway down, he actually bleeds and sheds blood. That's something that I never saw in a Kirby game before then.
I have weirdly never noticed that before.
Yeah, if you could YouTube it and just watch the boss fight, when his health gets half down, he like spins and like swipes his sword down and drops of blood actually come from him.
Oh man, that's crazy to me. And
Yeah.
you did hit on a very interesting point how like it seems like really innocent on the surface at first, and you look at Kirby and you're like, oh, he's shaped like a friend. He goes Poyo, like it's a lot of fun. And
Right.
then the further you progress into the game, the more you start finding like horrors and eldritch abominations that you have to fight.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, why exactly is it that or why do you think Nintendo and HAL Laboratory choose to go that route with their games?
For the Kirby series specifically, since that, you know, that's what HAL and Nintendo have really done for the last couple of decades. Like my guess is that they like creating this dynamic, and it's kind of like a reflection of the real world in certain ways, where it's like we like things to look cute and cuddly on the outside, we like good vibes and positivity, but beneath the surface is the reality of the world where, you know, things aren't always, you know, sunshines and blue skies and everything. Like there's darkness in this world, and no matter how light and bright you try to make things, there's always something out there that's looking to destroy that. And I think Kirby is supposed to serve as this kind of protagonist that, you know, despite all the darkness and stuff, you can still find light somewhere. There'll always be light to stop darkness wherever it is.
Yeah, alternatively, you could just say like, oh, you can like do away with darkness simply by eating it. I'm kidding.
I mean, his stomach is basically a void. Like he can fit anything in there.
That is true. So, is there anything you wish the series could do better or accomplish better that you hope gets added to the series in the future?
Honestly, there's not really too much in the realm of expectations or like hopes and dreams that I would want to see from the Kirby series because throughout its history, it's always managed to do something different, whether it's adding a new gimmick or adding a new style of play. That has always been interesting for a lot of the fans to come to enjoy. Like, for example, Kirby Air Ride, it's a racing game, but you know, with the Kirby spin on it and everything, and adding different elements from that series on the racing genre. A lot of people like the concept and for that reason still want it to be ported or like have a sequel today. And like, yeah, as far as adding new things, there's not really much to say in that regard because it seems that they already have that area covered when it comes to doing something different. Like with the upcoming Forgotten Land game, they've made this shift to like a Mario 3D Land or 3D World style. It's still linear, but there's like a openness about it.
Yeah, no, I do see that. I kind of share a lot of what you're saying too. It seems that a lot of the Kirby games, what they do and how they choose to do each specific entry, even with like spin-off stuff like Epic Yarn or Canvas Curse or Rainbow Curse, the foundations for it are still really solid. I would be very curious to see, because considering this is or this whole series, because I did look this up, is Masahiro Sakurai's brainchild. Considering he left HAL Laboratory in 2003, I'd be very curious to see, like, if he were to get over his idea of sequelitis and work on a newer Kirby game. I'd be very curious to see what that looked like.
Yeah, especially considering like the consistency that Kirby as a game series has had even without his involvement. It's like they like all those creative juices amongst the HAL Laboratory team, like they still have that same spark and same level of creativity that they had since, Kirby's very first game,
Oh yeah.
where he didn't even have any copy abilities. It was just like shooting air at enemies and that was it.
Yeah, even outside of like Sakurai's involvement, the Kirby games are done really, really well.
Definitely.
But also considering Air Ride was Sakurai's last game, I'm still very curious to see, like, would, if he were to do like something new, like would it follow the traditional Kirby format? Would he attempt to do something different like Air Ride or Epic Yarn or anything similar? I don't know. There's a lot of hypotheticals there.
I feel like Sakurai, with all the stuff that he learned about and brought to the Kirby series, it's like it transitioned over to how he developed the Kirby series because, as we all know, Smash is basically a Kirby spinoff, and a lot of the ideas that and concepts that Smash has came from games like Kirby Superstar, Superstar Ultra, where he has like, shields, different move sets for all of the copy abilities. Like if you look at just the fighter copy ability, that's like a full like fighting game move set, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So there was definitely a lot of inspiration from Kirby that Sakurai was able to bring to Smash and just his entire development cycle as a whole.
Yeah, I think that also applies for the other way around too, because I don't know if it started in either Return to Dreamland or Triple Deluxe, but Kirby in one of those games started being able to air dodge, which I think is kind of hysterical.
I think it was if it wasn't Triple Deluxe, maybe it was Planet Robobot. I'd have to backtrack and see, but I definitely know what you mean.
Yeah, for sure. So, considering we're a few weeks away from release now, what are your thoughts on Kirby and the Forgotten Land? Are you excited? Are you nervous for it? What are your thoughts and hopes for it?
Definitely excited. There's a lot to love when it comes to any Kirby game. The characters, the music, the backgrounds, aesthetics, the stories, the lore. Like I'm looking forward to like the story and the lore the most because I'm very curious to see like what new cast of characters we're gonna have from this Beast Pack. I'm very curious to see who the leader is and how this new storyline might add to Kirby's background as a character, because despite all the games that he's had and despite all the things that we know about Kirby as a character, there's still a lot that's a mystery to us.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious about seeing more there as well. I still do love the memes that came about when with like every new Kirby trailer. Like the first trailer that came out, oh God, Kirby has a gun,
Yeah.
and the second trailer, like Kirby can now possess inanimate objects.
Yeah, that's I'll be honest, I didn't quite understand the whole mouthful mode thing, but after seeing it a bit more and playing the game demo, I was like, this is strangely kind of funny and cute, and it's like I said, in a weird sort of way.
So it is present in the demo. I definitely have to try it now.
Yeah, in the demo there's three mouthful modes that you can do. It's the vending machine, the car, and the traffic cone.
Oh, you get to play the car. Oh, I definitely
Yeah.
have to try this out now.
Yeah, the car segment is kind of short, but it's enjoyable.
Yeah, I definitely got to see this now. Hypothetically, where do you see the series going post Forgotten Land? Is there anything you'd want to see or anything like see return, sorry, or anything new that you'd like to see?
At the moment, I'm not too sure. I feel like Forgotten Land is, it's right now it's scratching that itch of, going beyond the spectrum that a lot of Kirby fans have wanted for a long time, especially when you consider like older Kirby games and like the canceled Kirby game that was going to be like a 3D slash open world type of thing, but this was like some years ago and it got canceled.
Was
I
this the
think
GameCube
because
one?
not the GameCube one, or maybe it was, I'm not sure, but it was definitely a title for one of the older Nintendo consoles. I think the reason it was canceled back then is because the project itself, given what it entailed, was just too grand scale for the devs to handle at the time.
Yeah, I can see that. And then there's a part of me that looks at what that was, and I'm pretty sure that is what Return to Dreamland became.
Yeah, that and just moving forward from Return to Dreamland, you could see a lot of the ideas that the that initial older cancel game had. You can see it present in a lot of the games in Return to Dreamland, Planet Robobot, Triple Deluxe, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Last question I have, what's your favorite memory regarding playing any of the Kirby games? Like if you think back to all of your experiences playing them, what's something that you did in the games that stands out the most?
I want to say like just my overall time that I spent with Amazing Mirror and Superstar Ultra. Like I spent an unbelievable amount of time on both of those games. Mainly Amazing Mirror because I didn't know how to navigate the map at the time.
Yeah, me neither. And to this day, I still don't.
Yeah, I didn't understand like at the time that Amazing Mirror took on kind of a Metroidvania style of gameplay. So it was about like getting the maps and then going around and exploring in different areas to fight the bosses and whatnot. And at that time, I never really experienced Castlevania or Metroid as games before. I just knew about them, but I never really played them. So when they said like, "Oh, it's a Metroidvania style Kirby game," I was like, "What's Metroidvania mean?" So after looking it up, I was like, "Oh, that's what it means." And as I got older, I got to understand more about the objective of Amazing Mirror and how to navigate through the game. So that was a very fun experience. And then with Superstar Ultra, it just reminded me of like the very first time that I played Kirby's Dream Land on the Game Boy Color. When I was little, I spent a lot of time on that game as well. It was one of the only Game Boy Color games that I had at the time. I got a Game Boy Color as a Christmas present from my mother, and that was one of the first games I got on there.
Yeah, dang. Yeah, powerful memories. Like it's always fun going back and looking at stuff. I think for me, my thing was kind of in the same vein as you, like all the time I spent playing just like any of the Kirby games. I remember going through Crystal Shards a bunch and trying so desperately to figure out where is this last crystal shard that I need to find so that I can get the true ending. And I searched and I searched and I searched and I couldn't find it. But then the moment I did, and I go on to the boss fight against the eldritch blood crying abomination that is 02, I'm like,
Oh
oh my
man.
God, yes, I finally did it. And then 02 proceeds to wipe my ass. And I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah, and that's amazing too. Just the lineage of the villain like Dark Matter and Zero, because Dark Matter becomes Zero, and like according to the lore, like Kirby, Dark Matter, and Zero, they're and Gooey as well. They're all cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of other villains that get corrupted by it. Isn't although Dark Meta Knight, I think you could argue, isn't part of the Dark Matter family,
Oh no, not at all.
but I think he but I think there's a possibility he could gain power similar to it, especially considering he's featured as a boss once again in Triple Deluxe
Hmm.
just for DDD's campaign, and
Yeah,
then he's featured again as a playable character in Star Allies.
which I thought was amazing, by the way.
Oh yeah, no, Star Allies was a great game. I just wish it wasn't so short.
Yeah, in some ways it's short. For me, Star Allies in some areas felt long because of all the like the helper section of that game. It's like there are so many helpers and allies that you have in the game. So like doing their own like visual individual run through of the I guess the campaign, doing all of that in succession, it felt longer than it really is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. And then even all of the helpers that got added in as free updates, like Bandana Waddle Dee, Dedede, Meta Knight, Dark Meta Knight, Adeline, and crap, what was that fairy's name from Kirby
Ribbon.
64? Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Ribbon. I think my favorite helper or ally, as they put it, was Marks and Magalore. Those were probably my two favorite helpers.
Mine had to have been Gooey, Adeline and Ribbon, and Bonkers, specifically for the hammer powers.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because like the hammer copy ability, it's kind of faded into becoming like more of a common copy ability, whereas in previous games it was much harder to get.
Oh yeah, I still remember trying to do the boss rush in Return to Dreamland, not Return to Dreamland, Nightmare in Dreamland for Game Boy Advance,
Ah,
and
yes.
and if you were lucky enough to get the hammer copy power from that fifth boss fight and just go through it as quickly as you possibly could, it it really worked out. Only to lose it immediately because you're forced to more
Yeah,
power for Meta Knight.
yeah.
I'm just like, come on, I just got this power.
Right. But you just lost it. Like, great. Now I have to continue without it.
I'm just like, darn it, can't I just like whack Meta Knight over the head? And the game's just like, no, suffer.
Right. You have to pick up the sword. You have to fight with honor, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
I'm just reminded of that one like parody animation that somebody did. Like, all right, Kirby, draw your sword and duel me. What?
No.
Well,
I
why
know
not?
exactly what you're talking about.
It's like, I don't want to, but we have to fight. All right, but I don't want to use the sword. Oh, yes, you will. You use that sword and you like it. No. All right, fine. I'll wait.
And they were sitting there waiting.
Yeah, and it's like 24 hours passed, and all of a sudden, like Meta Knight just gets shot up with bullets.
Yes. Kirby pulls out an entire Uzi. Just like, dude, just went all out. But that's honestly what would happen because, especially watching speedrunners play the game, it's like they can kill bosses like in a couple seconds flat because they have a certain copy ability or have a certain strat that will just make the boss's health go down so fast.
And then for me, it was always like, oh, slow burn. I'm trying not to get hit. I'm trying not to die. I'm not trying to do anything fancy. I just want to survive.
You're right.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of fun memories associated with Kirby and just playing all the
Yeah.
games and even seeing all the fan animations too.
Yeah, that too. And I also mentioned like the more recent games, they really do hit on some nostalgic stuff too. Like when they bring back certain characters or bosses, like I want to say Robobot is one of the best games to date because of what it brought back in terms of references and nostalgia pieces to the game. So for example, I think it's the second boss fight in Robobot. It's that AI defense program that looks a lot like Pix from Crystal Shards.
Oh yeah.
So it brought back the Ice Dragon boss from one of the earlier Kirby games.
It even brought back Kabula during one of the bullet hell sequences.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's awesome how they implemented that. And then just going further, getting towards the end of the game, right before you start fighting Star Dream, you fight a copied version of Queen Sectonia, which I thought was cool. Like she was a dope boss fight and also has some really dope music to go with her. And I think the thing that I was not expecting when it came to returning characters, the copy of Dark Matter.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that whole copy fight when you're playing as Meta Knight is just completely insane. Like, what is it? Copy Dark Matter. I think he copies something else before Dark Matter and Sectonia. I just can't remember what that is off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And then doesn't he bust out like Galactonite as a last ditch offensive? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like we have all of these different elements from previous Kirby games like coming together in this like one thing. It's just like the only thing missing at that time was like Dark Meta Knight. I would have liked to see a canon like fight between Meta Knight and Dark Meta Knight.
I mean, I think the closest thing we can get is terminal montage is something about Kirby and the Amazing Mirror.
Yeah. other than that, it's just, it is what it is for what the devs are doing for the Kirby games. But Yeah, Planet Robobot hit on a lot of nostalgic pieces from previous games, and I thought that was really dope.
Yeah, no, like there's a lot of fun to be had with like any Kirby game, no matter which one you're playing. I want to go back at some point because I do have NES Online available because I think all three of the original Kirby's Dream Lands are on that. I definitely want to play at least the third one and just play OG GUI and see how that goes.
I've seen gameplay videos of it, and I have played it myself. It's definitely a fun time.
Yeah, and now all this talk about Planet Robobot makes me want to go back and replay it too.
Yeah. One hope that I do have, like if they're gonna keep on like riding this nostalgia train, I would like for them to I would like for them to bring back a specific like mid boss, heavy lobster.
Oh, Heavy Lobster. Yes.
Because that one, like, it was random, but it was fun. It was a very weird thing to come across. And it's like just this giant robotic lobster with legs. It was like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen, but it was a fun boss.
Yeah, and it has probably one of the most fun boss fight themes I've ever heard from Superstar and Superstar Ultra.
Yeah, it's really good.
And also to that same end too, I'd love to see Dynablade come back someday.
Oh yeah. There's like even with all the things that we mentioned, there's still like a whole bunch of things from Kirby's past that we still haven't covered yet.
And I mean, like you could argue, like, oh, there's a bunch of music that could come back, but let's be real, like Kirby music gets copied and reorchestrated time and time again with like certain releases.
Yeah, it was done like at least several times just with Triple Deluxe and Robobot alone.
Hell, even Squeak Squad had on DS has copies of like or updated copies of like all the original songs.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Like if you're
Oh
able
no, not
to
at all.
like if you're able to flaunt it, then work it.
Yeah, and they do it every time.
And even
It's
all the bonus levels from like newer Kirby games, starting from like Return to Dreamland onward, you can
Mhm.
definitely hear like all of the older songs that play in them.
Yeah. Like you said, they really ride that nostalgia train, and some people might get like, oh, we heard this already, or like they just keep remixing tracks from older games. It's like I'm never gonna get tired of it because there was a lot to love about the older games. So the fact that they, continue to touch upon that history that Kirby has, I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, no, I am definitely in agreement with you there. And that's about all the time we have. Before we close out, do you have anything you want to plug or shout out before we finish up?
Play more Kirby games, y'all.
Play more Kirby games, y'all. And considering this is your third time on the show, you have unlocked a special feature. Woo!
Woo!
So this will be the first time I get to say it in a podcast. So every 3 episodes that a guest comes on to talk about something, they get to unlock a feature where you get to request an episode and be on it, and it will get done, no questions asked.
Awesome.
So any requests now, or do you want to save them for later?
Maybe I could throw it out there. Probably since it's on my mind currently, but we could also like talk afterwards just to, brainstorm and throw some stuff around.
Yeah.
But the first thing for me that comes to mind is the state of fighting games today versus back then.
Oh, that would be a really good episode. I'd love to do that.
Because given how the market is today for fighting games, it's like it was different for my parents growing up because they grew up with the arcades and everything. Whereas we're in the age now where, our age where we're like kind of in between there. And then the age that kids today are growing up in now when it comes to fighting games, where everything's a bit more easily accessible and it's not the same as like arcade culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. But yeah, that'll make for a fun episode. So I hope to have you on it, as well as like maybe anybody else who would love to take part in it.
Oh, definitely.
All right. Well, thank you for your suggestion. We will definitely get that done. And that's our show. Thank you everyone so much for listening, and please stay tuned for the next episode.